I'd like to read an excerpt of the book that you wrote.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask you a question at the end of it. Over and over again, we lined the airfield for another young Aussie who had fallen, with ramp ceremonies becoming a commonplace of parade. We all stood there in a guard of honour to watch broken soldiers carry their mate to his plane ride home, draped in the Australian flag. Fuck, it's going to get me. These young men who had sworn to protect each other, slowly marching next to the casket, saying their final farewell. I could feel the pain of these soldiers, their hearts shattered at the loss of a brother, and even though I did not know them personally, I could sense the anger brewing inside me at their loss. But I did what I do best, and justified all the pain, all the suffering, and all the loss by telling myself that this is war. The past cannot be undone. What has happened, and forever will be. Regardless of the way I feel, I will wake up tomorrow and the war will continue and the next mission will push on. My mates will do their gear and so will I. I will continue to do my part and keep my mates safe, and I will sacrifice all to bring them home alive. I will not allow the pain I feel to impede my ability to do my job, and I will use any anger to perform with distinction. I will give my all, and I'm not let anything happen on my watch. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, by the way. I will, however, unbeknownst to me, hidden deep inside, a ferocious and unruly beast had begun to grow as my youthful innocence began to fade, and the boundaries of right and wrong and good and evil had begun to blur, and my existence was becoming nothing short of black and white for survival. It was us or them. Nothing is clear-cut about war, and doing right meant that I must do what was morally wrong. It was the task that I had been asked to perform by my nation, and to do it all with distinction meant I must defy all that I am. We returned home to Australia on the 20th of January 2011. I was just 22. The reason why I wanted to read that is because if we are civilians reaching out to people that have served, we've got no comprehension of the realities. But yet, if we want to help, how do we keep reaching out and not? Sorry, did that get you?
No, yeah, it did. But that's right.
It
Go
got
on.
me
Yep.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we help without feeling like we're burdening someone by talking about their issues?
The thing is, I no two people will ever experience the same thing.
Mm.
Just like no two people will ever read the same book. Those who read my story, although they will never walk in my shoes on the battlefield and the experiences, they may have walked with me in the way that it made me feel and the repercussions of what I've been through. The way that it makes us feel, that is the universal experience. That is what you, me, and everyone can connect with. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering. And comparison of experiences, I guess, for me is like the root of all evil.
Mm.
But I still remember Anzac Day 2016 when I went to a pub. I was the only special operations engineer that lived in Adelaide. So no one, I had no common experiences with other guys that had served. And I went to a pub and I sat there and in a pub full of cheers, clinking of beers and calls of joy and the footy match. There I sat in my suit, my medals upon my chest, as though I didn't exist. A hug, or I guess was all I craved at the time, to know that I still exist. But there on a day for those who had served, standing in the middle of a group full of people, I was almost invisible. No one approached me. No one spoke to me. And for hours, I just sat there and just wallowed in the filth of my own thoughts, begging for someone to just show me that they care. There'll be times in people's lives where you're just not ready to engage in that chat. But then I'm like, there's other times when you know that person is just needing some love, and don't expect them to divulge some of their greatest traumas and you get like the inside scoop on the worst of it. But I'm like, don't try to drag them out of the hole. I'm like, jump in there with them for a bit and just sit in the filth with them and let them help find their own way out.
But
Don't
how?
try to, but don't compare. Don't put us on a pedestal, because I'm not someone who's been through like a marriage breakdown and divorce. I can't relate to you either. But why am I allowed to talk to someone about their marriage breaking down, but you're not allowed to talk to me about my war experiences?
I think it's so from a civilian point of view, if I saw someone on Anzac Day sitting there by themselves, I would think that they wouldn't want to be approached, right? They're a complete stranger and I wouldn't want to approach them and intrude on that, potentially remembering their mates and stuff. But then how do we show that appreciation without
Intruding.
yeah. I didn't think this conversation was going to be so emotional. Because how do we show that we care without saying, are you okay? Or, tell me about yourself, where you might see that as an intrusion, but you want to be seen. So can you see from a...
Yeah,
we're not in your head. How do we...
I know exactly where you're at, and I know the impact. But then I go at the same time, never again will I ever allow someone sitting alone suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Because all I craved was for someone to just say hello. And I can still see all the crowd just, and I'm like, obviously most people don't know what to say and they just say thank you for your service. That's pretty much where they just end up. And I'm like, I get it. I understand, because you don't know what to say and you think that that's just the easiest thing to say. And you're like, oh yeah, thank you. And I'll just smile or wave. Sometimes you go, ask them, is that, are you doing okay today? Something small. And if they try to blow you up, yeah, no dramas, mate. I just wanted to check up. I'm like, this is your day. I want to thank you. But honestly, mate, like, I'd love to have a chat if you can.
But do you think as a civilian, and this comes back to...
Takes the right person.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, because from a civilian point
Not
of view,
everyone
that
can do
anger
this.
of you don't understand what I've been through. Why are you having this conversation with me? You
And
know.
a lot of vets will go there.
Mm.
And I believe these days, like to my core, vets don't want to go there, and there's nothing because they blanket as like, oh, it's classified. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm like, bullshit. You're hiding your trauma behind the word classified as though you can't talk about it because you don't want to face the music yourself.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna have that conversation with someone on Anzac Day in a pub.
You have no idea some of the conversations I've had with people at the
Yeah,
pub.
but you've served. It's very different. And if you're sitting there going, I just
But
want to
people
be
have asked
seen by the
me
members
these
of the
days.
public.
People have asked me, and they will. And this is what I'm like. People, I'm like. Obviously, I'm far more open and forward to these conversations these days. But it starts with the small question: how you doing today? Um, I hope that it's not too painful, or I hope that um, yeah, you and your mates are doing okay, because you never know. Just sometimes, whenever someone asks you, one of my mates is a telltale for it. Fantastic. He comes up to me, yeah, Callum McPherson from Youngblood podcast. Like every time he comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, Bolts, how you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good, mate." He's like, "Bolts, how you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, mate, I'm all right." He's like, "Bolts, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm fucked." I'm like, "I'm so sad." And he's like, "There we go." and and I'm like, and he knows now to ask me the question 3 times, because he knows he's going to get the false one, the first one. The second one is going to be this sort of like intermediary. And the third one will be like, man, yeah, I'm not doing too good. And that's where it's like, you can't, you do that with mates per se, but then other people will like, you ask her, how you doing? Hope you're doing okay. Hope your mates are doing well and all that. And it's only that you ask enough questions. If you can feel that they do not want to go there, obviously don't push them. But if you can feel that they're like lingering and they want to, and you have the ability to engage in that conversation, if you don't know what you're doing and you're going to have some unsolicited opinion about stuff, I'm like, be very careful, because trauma is not always rational,
Mm.
and what they say may not always make sense, but they're trying to make sense of it themselves. And for anyone, your goal is not to. We all have the ability to solve our own problems. The goal is to keep them talking long enough so they can solve their own. Um, and that's where just keep them talking. And then, but as soon as you feel them obviously trying to wrap it up, like, "Yeah, mate, it was an absolute pleasure. Like, nice meeting you." Don't sit there and linger. Like, move on. Like, they're wanting you to move on, but it's like, yeah, I guess if you're not sure, always start with the thank you for your service if you're never not sure. But then just ask them, like, how you doing? Just like anybody else, and see what the response is. I'm like, because we are just ordinary people. I'm just an ordinary bloke who sometimes who at one point in their life were tasked to do extraordinary things. But I guess my pain is no different to your pain. And for that is something that we can share. And let's bond over the darkness and the despair rather than the experiences themselves. Because
But there's a
if you tell me that you've had a really shit day, and then I'll be like, "Oh, really? Like, what happened?" And then I'll tell you about my shit day. And I'm like, and it's like what Alan de Botton once did in a conference. I watched it. It was the most like I wasn't there. I watched on YouTube. And he goes, "All right, I want you to turn." He talked to the whole group. He said, "I want you to turn and speak to the person next to you about something you've achieved and a success that you've made and that you've done. Go turn to the person next to you, tell you something." You hear everyone go, "Oh yeah, I'm this, and I've achieved and succeeded in this," and the conversation fizzled within like 30 seconds. And he goes, "Now I want you to turn to that person and say, tell me something you regret, tell me something that you're sad about, and now tell me something you're ashamed of." And he goes, "Go talk to the person next to you." For 5 minutes, he could not get the audience back. We are all want to divulge the skeletons in our closet, but we're always so afraid to be the first person to do it. We connect through our suffering and our pain. Hence why the Buddhist noble truth is life is suffering. It's like, stop fighting the fact that life is suffering and use it as a tool in order to be closer and more connected to those that you love and care about. Or even be supportive of those who you do not know. We all, well, majority of us want to share the pain that we hold within, but we're too afraid that we're going to be judged for doing so. And I guess for that book, writing that book, that's when I just said, I don't, sorry my language, give a fuck anymore about how people are going to perceive me and how people are going to judge me. This is my life. These are the mistakes I made. These are the experiences that I went through. Sorry, the dog just walked in. And in the end, I'm like, this is who I am.
You work